Ray Berry Jr. is an entrepreneur here in Springfield who is doing something that I think is great. He's bringing back beer to Springfield and brewing to Springfield, which was once a brewery town like so many others in the Northeast.
Hi, and welcome to 30 Minutes With. I'm Mike Dobbs, and my guest in the studio today is Ray Berry Jr., who is the president of White Lion Brewing Company. And Ray is bringing forth his dream of bringing a craft brewery to the city of Springfield. Ray, thanks very much for coming by.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I want to talk a little bit about the entrepreneurial spirit right now, because clearly you must have it big time. This is a large undertaking. And can you tell me a little bit about how you came to the decision that you wanted to do this?
Well, when you talk about the entrepreneurial spirit, it really goes back quite some time. Immediately after going to American International College, my first career was working with the local CDC, and one of my responsibilities was working with small business owners and trying to provide them or give them technical assistance and point them to all of the assistance that's available in the region. And I think by cutting my teeth right out of college into that ecosystem, it really touched me. Seeing folks put in the passion, the time, the effort to bring a dream to reality. Full circle maybe 10 years later, the craft beering idea came about, and it was just a matter of putting the right pieces of the puzzle together over a course of many years. Having the idea, parking it, and then bringing that reality or that dream to reality.
How much research did you do before you sort of pulled the trigger on actually embarking on this? Did you do a lot of research into the craft brewing field?
Tremendous amount of research, not only myself, but it was also two friends of mine who did a lot of the upfront due diligence on determining whether or not we, or the business model, the framework, goes all in and creating a brew house right from scratch, or doing the opposite and utilizing the contract brewing model. So after many rounds of discussion, due diligence, working with and having discussions with community stakeholders, regional stakeholders, it was the decision to take the contract brewing route. But it was a lot of upfront research, and in fact, framing out the business took close to 2 years.
It seems that a lot of people who enter into business, if there's a failing that they have, it's either not being properly educated about the business, they jump in a little bit too quickly, or that their plans are a little bit more grandiose than they should be. So have you been real cautious about your entry into the business in terms of how you're growing this business?
I must admit, not only was I cautious, I was scared. So when I talk about taking the idea and parking it for several years, I had to get through the fear of failure, understand the risk, and it took me a while to get through that. So when I relate back to my early career and looking at the businesses that came through our doors at Mason Square Development, there were those that did not make it. And when you do all of your research, you know that 2 and 5, 3 and 5 of business startups do not make it that second year, third year, fourth year. So that was a major concern, especially when you're a young professional who has a family, you have responsibilities, you have bills, etc. You don't want to bite off more than you can chew. So that was the biggest hurdle that I had to get through. Once I got through that and was comfortable in being able to measure the risk,
right.
I was ready to move forward.
Okay, so let's go through a little timeline of White Lion. So when did the first beer come out of the brewery for you to try and for you to get the word out on and share it with others?
So we officially launched in October 2014, but back in the spring of 2014, the month of May, our brewer Mike Yates was working with a small brew house in central Massachusetts where we were doing some of our pilot batches. Upon completion of those pilot batches, we had a series of focus groups at the Basketball Hall of Fame, where we called in 2 rounds of approximately 50 people and had them come in and taste the 4 products that we were going to launch as our flagship portfolio. And the response was great. We did make some adjustments off of those focus groups. Once we made those tweaks, we then aligned ourselves with a major brew house in Ipswich, Massachusetts, and we rolled out our first 2 beers in October of 2014.
Okay, so it's less than a year.
Correct.
And you guys are really busy with things that you're doing. Are you going at a pace that you're comfortable with? Because obviously you've had some success. Or are you constantly sort of like, well, should we just put the brakes on just a bit?
Very comfortable with, 1, the response from the community, 2, the response from the craft beer ecosystem. We're a company that's 8 months old, so there are some growing pains in there. We have already witnessed some hiccups. We roll out product, and the demand for that product a couple times has exceeded what we were able to provide. So it's a constant balancing act to ensure, 1, that we meet the demand with the appropriate level of supply, but we don't overextend ourselves from a financial and human capital capacity perspective. So we're very mindful of that. I think we're right on target. The summer was really a test for us. We're right in the beginning stages of the summer. We're able to participate in a number of events throughout the Commonwealth, and it's giving us greater exposure. And we look forward to another event that we're hosting at the end of the summer. So it's all about trying to get the brand and the story out there as much as possible.
Okay, I know that people can do the very best product, the very best tangible thing, but the issue is always going to be distribution, getting your product to your prospective audience.
Yes.
And market. Has distribution been an issue? Because when I go into a boozatorium to get something, there's a lot of craft beers now,
Yes.
and it seems like there's going to be an increasing competition for shelf space and for space in that refrigerator unit. So how has it been difficult to break into stores to get them to carry White Lion?
We're very fortunate. We hit the ground running with a distribution channel through Anheuser-Busch InBev, utilizing their local channels. Our local distributor in Hamden and Hampshire County, located out of Chicopee, is Williams Distributing.
Okay.
So, if it were not for them and our partners in central Massachusetts and our partners out in Franklin and Berkshire County, we probably wouldn't be in the situation we are in now. But to your point, there is a lot of competition out there. So much so that we realize now, 8 months into the existence of the company with our product out in the ground, we're looking to now put a part-time or full-time person out there to continue to engage, foster the accounts that we have, and then also make headway and introduce ourselves to the accounts that may know about us or don't know about us, but at least we'll have that level of interaction with them to see our bandwidth continue to grow.
I know that the craft brewery industry is exploding. I saw this story about an attorney who specializes in making sure that the names that craft brewers give their beers, not
Yes.
necessarily their company names, because that's pretty easy to research, but the names of the beers don't violate somebody else's name. And I thought, wow, there must be a lot going on for someone to actually specialize that as an attorney. How careful were you about the name of the brewery and the name of the beers?
So as we were going through our rounds of due diligence, we wanted to make sure whatever name of the company that we rolled out and the names of the introductory portfolio that we introduced were able to be protected. So we went through the USPTO process. And so when we did our first level of due diligence and we started looking at the name White Lion, we had an attorney do that level of research. And we were fortunate enough to come back and have all of our names, White Lion Brewing, our tagline, handcrafted beer, legendary as its name, and all of the 4 ales that are out there are all trademark protected by USPTO. So to your point, when you have 3,000 plus brewers out there putting out a wide range of creative names, you want to be sure that you protect your intellectual property, and that's the avenue that we took, and we are protected.
Well, it's, as good as your beer product is for anyone, they have to have, that element of marketing set, starting with the name of the brewery and the name of the beer. Now, you brought along 2 of your 4.
Yes.
If they stay through the interview unopened, it will be a miracle, since we've got some young camera operators here who have been eyeing it.
They've been eyeing it.
But tell me about what you brought today, and what's the difference between the two?
Yeah, so today we have 2 of our flagship, our signature beer, which is an American Pale Ale. It's 5.5% alcohol content, about 55 IBUs, which is international bitterness units. Tells you how bitter the beer is. Has been well received. Is actually the leader in our sales, and fittingly so, because it carries the name White Lion. So we're very appreciative and proud of this beer. And then complementing it is a malty 6.5% red beer called Insane Maine that hit the ground fittingly in February, around the red, Valentine's Day, and has been well received, and is the second beer trailing the Pale Ale. So we're very happy to have 2 beers that the general consumer is very aware of, as far as a red amber beer type beer and an American style Pale Ale. It's not as if we launched with a beer that was super creative that may not have been able to touch the masses. These are beers that your general consumer connoisseur would appreciate.
I think for young people today, people who are in their 20s who are into craft beers, it's probably hard for them to understand what the beer scene was like when I was in my 20s, which was basically brands like Budweiser, Miller, Coors, Schaefer, beers that basically all looked alike and pretty much tasted alike. Sure. Today, there's such a wide-ranging taste of beer. People are selecting beers based on what they're serving for dinner to actually match it like you would a wine. When you're sitting and working with your brewmaster on and creating a beer, are you thinking about what's already out there and trying to get something new as an alternative to what's out there? Or are you thinking about what really you believe the market wants? And you sort of said, like with the Pale Ale, it's selling because obviously it's something that the market wants and reacts positively to. It's just I've seen some really bizarre beers out there. And I wonder about that process of creating something. Yeah,
so our mindset and out the gate, and we can always pivot, is to be able to introduce beers that the general consumer is familiar with. When I talk about the contract brewing model, we have to be mindful that the product that we produce and bring back through our distribution pipeline can immediately hit the market and sell. When we bring full barrel production to the city of Springfield and control our own brick and mortar and our own production cycles, we can chop that up and be as creative as we want. Because then we can create those small type Uber, one-of-a-kind, one-off batches just to spin it and give the consumer something different.
The real limited edition.
They're limited edition type product.
Yep.
And we look forward to that. The creativity that Mike, our brewer, has is incredible. And it's like boxing him in right now, knowing that we have to stay the course and stick to the portfolio that we said we were going to roll out. But when we bring everything full circle, we'll let him bring the creativity to the barrel and come out with those one-of-a-kind type products.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your plans for a brick and mortar facility in the city of Springfield.
Yes.
Because obviously you want to do that. I know you've been talking about that pretty much from day one as being the ultimate goal.
Yes.
Do you have a timeline on that, do you think?
Yes, that's a great question. We would love to be in a position by 2017 to cut a ribbon and introduce White Lion Brew House, brick and mortar, to the city of Springfield. Love to be in a position by the end of 2015, early 2016, having a better understanding on where that placement would be. At the end of the day, ultimately, we want to be in the downtown fabric. Doesn't necessarily mean we have to be on Main Street, but we want to be part of this urban regeneration renaissance that's taking place downtown Springfield, the pulse. I mean, it's taking place throughout the city of Springfield and the region, but the pulse starts right here. So we want to be part of that.
I think it would be a great addition to downtown, and I think it's sad that we haven't had something like this very lately. I know years and years ago there was a brew pub situation in town, and if I remember correctly, that was derailed by a state law saying that a husband and wife couldn't own a brew pub, which I know that the Northampton brewery people eventually effectively lobbied to get that repealed.
Right.
But I've often thought that, we're ripe for something like this. It would go with everything else downtown, and I think that it would really give us another reason to encourage people to come downtown. I'll just ask you the obnoxious question now. Are you one of these businesses that are waiting to see what happens with MGM, or are you just planning your future without worrying about if there's going to be a casino right over there?
No, I mean, the business model itself dates back prior to any casino legislation taking place. The thought process started at least 7 to 10 years ago. It just so happened to be that, I got through those hurdles, those fears, to bring everything full forward in 2012, 2013. So, yeah, I mean, it's great to have a casino in the South End, and we would love to possibly have them as one of our accounts. But White Lion will continue to move forward with or without a major development project like that. But we welcome them to be one of our partners without question.
Now, you mentioned that you're having an event later this summer. Can you talk to us about that?
So we're very happy. Part of our business model was to roll out a large-scale brew festival right here in the city of Springfield.
Excellent.
Showcasing all of the city's attractions. And very fortunate enough to work with the city. It's going to be in Court Square in August 29th. 51 brewers.
Wow.
Local, regional, and national brands. All converging, 2 sessions, 1:30 to 4, and then early evening, highlighting local restaurants, 2 regional bands. We're bringing in a food pairing chef. We talk about food pairing chef out of Belgium.
Really?
To do a couple
Cool.
creative food pairing tips and chef it up a little bit. So, we're very happy, very fortunate. We have some great sponsors, including MGM Springfield, Mass Mutual Financial Group, and the list is very long. So, again, it just showcases the amount of support that is in place right here in the city of Springfield, appreciating what we're trying to do and bring this extra level of interaction and development to all of what's going on.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were recently at a Boston Brewfest, were you?
We were in Boston. We were at the ABCF, yes, the American Beer Fest in Boston.
I think my friend Chris Mazza
Yes.
was there and wrote about it. When you're in an event like that, how tough it is to get people to come to your booth or to where you are? Did you find it to be tough? Let me ask you that.
Well, the festival in Boston is one of the largest on the East Coast. I mean, you have 14 to 15,000 people that converge and
Wow.
participate in the process over that weekend. So when you have all of those moving parts, it's not hard to have someone come up and ask for a sample. But what you really want to do is the craft beer ecosystem is very supportive. Folks help each other out, advice, tips, partnerships, etc. So it's like one big festive environment. So when you look at it from on the opposite side of the table, sampling and giving and sharing your product, it's rewarding. And then to be able or to be in a position to be on the other opposite end where you're bringing a lot of the local, regional, national talent to the area, it's also rewarding. So it's always good to tell the story and share your beer.
Sure. In terms of distribution, is there a focus more on getting these into stores or having that White Lion pull in a bar or restaurant?
Yeah, our creative tap handle, we love it. It's a one-of-a-kind handle, custom made. It's all part of the branding. So whether it's the bottle in your hand, sharing that experience, having that experience, or seeing the tap on a series of draft lines, it all gets back to White Lion and its story. So from a distribution perspective, we probably have a 60-40 split.
Wow.
60% of our product is probably in bottle. I think it's in bottle. And the other 40% is on draft lines. We would love to be able to keep that ratio. We understand the importance of draft lines. And when you witness and you go out and you have a product on draft, maybe for the first time, there's a spin effect on that. That once you go into the local package store or regional package store, you're able to put 2 and 2 together, and maybe you'll pick up a 6-pack or a case of your favorite.
I would think that's beverage. The way most people want to try.
Yes.
The beer. I mean, this is an investment of a 6-pack, but
Yes.
you're at a place and someone says, "Let's try that."
That's right.
And you say, "Wow, that's nice. Now I'm going to wait for it and watch for it when I go shopping."
Yeah.
Well, Ray, this has been great talking to you about this. I think it's marvelous that you've undertaken something like this and you want to bring a brewery back to Springfield, because Springfield was a brewery community at the turn of the 20th century.
That's right.
And we haven't had one here for a very long time. And especially since you've been able to get so much positive attention for your brand so quickly. I mean, people talk about it, they like it.
Yeah.
I think that's a real testimony to you and your brewmaster that you've been able to make such strides in such a short length of time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so once again, August 29th?
August 29th, 2 sessions. Early afternoon, late evening, or early afternoon, early evening. Outside historic Court Square, 51 brewers, food vendors, live entertainment, international food pairing chef coming in over from Belgium, and it's going to be a great time for everybody.
Sounds excellent. I will be there.
Appreciate you.
I can't drink a lot. I'm a lightweight, but I will drink yours.
Thank you very
Definitely.
much. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much, Ray, for coming by.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it.
Awesome. Thank you.
We'll keep looking at each other.
Well, that's it, folks. The end of our first show. You have to have a celebratory cigar. And of course, we're going to have a celebratory drink here with my producer, director, camera operator, Steve Carey. There we go.
A White Lion.
A White Lion. What else would we be drinking?